The diabetes rate amongst teens in the United States continues to jump. Will banning soft drinks solve America's weight problem? I'm Allen Barton. Stand by for Front Page. Joining me in studio, Yaron Brook, president of the Ayn Rand Center for Individual Rights, and Terry Jones, associate editor for Investors Business Daily. All right, according to a recent report in the journal Pediatrics, diabetes has skyrocketed from 9% of the adolescent population in 2000 to 23% merely 8 years later. And most of the increase is tied to a third of these adolescents being overweight. So a lot of sugar in the American diet. Anyone who has any sense of awareness knows that. And kids eat lots of sugar. I remember coming out of high school and I would get a Snickers bar and a root beer before going to my job at the camera store. And by 4:30 I was in a coma. The answer to which was another a Reese's and a ginger ale. And that's what it was, you know, and eventually hopefully you learn to eat better. Now I just don't know, it's not like it's a fun statistic, but is there something to do about this?
Yeah, stop eating, you pigs. You know, if you look, we've talked about this before. If you look, I've actually gone back and looked at the data, and if you notice, I'm not myself, that's felt. But if you look at the data, the calorie intake of the average American has increased over 20% in the last 30 years or so. I mean, it's just shot up. Total calories. So you can't really blame sodas. Sodas are an epiphenomena, a minor cause of all this. It's not just sodas. It's total calorie intake.
Well,
we supersize
portions.
Everything.
Yeah, the portions. You go to restaurants sometimes. You get a portion. Was this for 3 people? And then you just kind of feel like you have the obligation to eat it.
Absolutely.
Like it would be rude not to finish it because they're, as my mother used to say, there were starving people in Ethiopia. You got to finish this like 7,000 calorie meal, and that's got to be a part of this as well. Any thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I blame the government's food pyramid for this. why is the government in this business at all? Why is it telling us what to eat to begin with? But if you look at the food pyramid, it's got tons of these carbs that turn into fat like that and turn into sugar like that, right at the bottom. That's what you're supposed to eat most of the time. And the stuff like protein, which probably fills you up and sustains you much better and actually has much better health consequences, is right at the top, and you're not supposed to eat that much of it. So the government shouldn't be involved in this. This isn't a statistic we should be worried about qua government. It is a worrisome trend, and there's a lot of science that needs to be done to figure this out. I mean, I'm on a low carb, low sugar, almost no refined sugars at all diet, and I have been for 7 or 8 years, and I feel a lot better. But that's me.
You arrived at that by living as an adult and coming to terms with like, oh, there are consequences if I eat this, and have 7 Coca-Colas a day.
That adults
and so I get to change my habits. Yes, but the problem is with adolescents, which is the subject of the study, don't have necessarily that sense
that's the parents. I mean, parents need to think about what kind of food they're feeding their kids. How much? I mean, do they order these huge portions? How many carbs? Whatever the best science that they can come up with is. But what is it that they are feeding their kids? How much junk food are they eating? I mean, junk food is cheap, it's plentiful, but it's also not that good for you. There has to be a certain balance, and it's a responsibility of parents to educate their kids to think a little bit more long term.
Terry, school district, the soft drink industry is of course in a panic because people are like making them the sort of ultimate bad guy for like, everyone's putting on weight because of you nasty soda makers. And so they're banning them from schools and such, which I guess if the government is providing the school in the first place, I guess they can say what the school is going to provide for food and drink. And if they want to provide apple juice, I don't see that there's a big problem with it. But what do you see as this there's personal responsibility, and then there's what is the government going to do about it? Because these are kids, and a lot of the day, most of these kids spend in a government school. Yeah, that's a fact. So
yeah, and it is a government-run school, and typically in public schools anyway. But theoretically, parents should have some sort of input into this. And I can recall when I was in junior high school, I ran for class president on the single platform of I was going to get Coke machines in the school.
The pro-Coca-Cola.
We did not have Coke machines.
The pro-Coca-Cola agenda launched your political career, Terry.
I failed miserably. I did not get it.
School.
Yep.
Yeah, Yaron, I'll give you a final word.
Two quick things. Another reason why we shouldn't have government schools, they should all be privatized, and then they can each have their own diet and parents can choose. Second, how about the government not subsidizing sugar and corn? The reason we have corn syrup in those drinks, if it's, let's assume it's really bad for you, is because price controls over sugar that make it too expensive to use sugar, so they use corn, and we subsidize corn and make it cheap so that they use corn. So let's get the government out of these things. You know, markets really, at the end of the day, if people are even semi-rational, work to the benefit of the individual, not to hurt them. It's usually when you see some massive phenomena like this, it's usually some weird government intervention going on. Stop feeding us corn syrup, stop running our schools, get out of our lives, leave us alone. That's the solution.
And maybe the parents man up a little bit more on responsibility for their
kids.
individual
responsibility,
you know,
absolutely.
When you see a 5-year-old who's weighing 80 pounds and you're just, you know.
Parents are still feeding them more
yeah,
sugar.
and then where are they going? They're going to McDonald's. It's really sad.
Stop telling parents and kids that every problem they have has a government solution.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, for Yaron and Terry, I'm Allen Barton. You've been watching Front Page.